Welcome to Sexy in Your 60s. This is a space for women 50 and beyond who are choosing to live with vitality, intention, and joy in this chapter of life and the ones ahead of us. I'm your host, Dvora Citron, registered nurse, National Board Certified Health and Wellbeing Coach, and Plant Strong advocate. On this podcast, we explore what truly helps women thrive in midlife and beyond through evidence-based health insights, real stories, practical strategies, and the deeper sense of meaning that makes life feel rich and connected. I intentionally chose the title, Sexy in Your 60s. When I use the word sexy, I'm not talking about sexuality or how we're seen. I'm talking about energy, confidence, presence, curiosity, purpose. Sexy is how you feel in your body. Sexy is how you move through the world. Sexy is knowing who you are and choosing how you want to show up. I believe this stage of life isn't about winding down. It's about waking up. Not in your 60s? You're still invited to join us. Each episode is designed to support you not just in how you live, but in how you feel in your body, your relationships, and your life. I'm so glad you're here. Let's begin. Welcome back to Sexy in Your 60s, 70s, and beyond. The show where we explore what it looks to feel strong, alive, and fully engaged in the second half of life. Today, we're talking about a topic that sounds like luxury, but may actually be a longevity practice: travel. My guest is Adriane Berg, an Emmy-winning broadcaster and the creator and host of the Ageless Traveler. Adriane has spent decades shaping public conversations, and now she's bringing that same sharp lens to aging, health span, and the way we live. Her recent two-part podcast episode is called The Longevity Passport, and it's exactly what it sounds like: a look at how travel can support vitality and how we can bring those benefits home when travel isn't possible. In this conversation, we're going to cover the science behind why we travel, how it can be good for us, the stories that shape Adriane's point of view, the support, meaning practical ways to make travel more doable and less exhausting, and the soul of it all: identity, meaning, and what it looks like to keep expanding as we age. Adriane, welcome to the show.
It's a pleasure to be here. I've really been looking forward to this.
We've got to know each other because I had the privilege of being on your podcast, The Ageless Traveler, which was so fun. So I'm really glad we get to have this collaboration again together.
I am too, and a lot of people reacted to that. They really loved what you helped them present. It's very unique information. I hope everybody will listen to that podcast as well on The Ageless Traveler.
Thank you. We share so much in common of what topics we're addressing: travel, longevity, and I like to start with the science. You talk about geroscience and longevity. What do you hear most consistently about what we would say are health span levers that help support healthy travel?
Well, I first got interested in this during COVID, when so many people really actually lost their lives and others thrived and even started new businesses all at the same age. What was that about? And I was privileged to be asked to be an executive director of an institute for the delay and prevention of age-related diseases. And for the first time in my life, I met geroscientists. Now, it's important to know geroscience is not about being old. It's about getting old. It's the process. So I began to understand the processes of aging and then became very interested in how travel is an intervention into those processes. It interrupts some of those processes. So what we hear the most about longevity, and then I'll relate that to travel, is first of all, what's called inflammation. We're all worried about free radicals. We've heard about that. So one of the things we want to do is we don't want to have internal inflammation. The next thing we hear a lot about is mitochondria or cell health. We want to have the healthiest cells, not only the biggest muscles, but the cells in those muscles should be very, very healthy. And of course, the last thing we hear about is cognitive decline. And we know that neurological patterns can be increased as we age. So how does travel deal with inflammation, with strong cells, and of course, building neurological pathways? Well, what we've discovered, and this is the NIH, these are geroscientists doing work, Karolinska Institute, I can go study after study, is this. Number one, people who take more vacations actually have less heart disease, which is the number one killer, a premature death. So that's number one. Number two, novel travel experiences, where you're going to new places that are challenging you specifically in some way, creates new neurological pathways in the brain, actually excites the hippocampus and makes your memory better and stronger, and that's so important. And of course, it's almost inevitable that you're going to exercise more. You're going to walk more on a trip. You're going to go on that walking tour. Take 7 miles to get around Disney. So the strengthening of the mitochondria in your cells and the inflammation in the body. All of these are interventions in healthful aging that travel automatically brings to you.
I love how you have come into this field, because I have 40 years of nursing behind me now in a new career pathway. And when we started in nursing school, we learned about gerontology, and it really was the science of old people.
Yes.
And now we are so fortunate to have the science and study and practice and advancement of longevity. And as you said, geroscience, which is really how to live longer, better. And that's what, of course, health span refers to in the context of lifespan. But you're also discussing brain span.
Yes, I'm talking about cognitive health, I'm talking about physical health, but I think we have to talk a little bit about emotional, spiritual health and longevity too. So there was a recent study by our own United States government and the former Surgeon General that said isolation, not having relationships that break down, are not just sad, they're not just emotionally and psychologically wearing on you, they're biologically wearing. They actually discovered that if you are isolated socially, it's like smoking 15 cigarettes a day for your heart and for your lungs. So we're talking about very serious biological stuff. Now take a look at travel. Travel is a fabulous way to meet new people. It simply is. And with technology, you can keep those friendships all of your life. You remember high school, there were people sitting at one table and people sitting at another table. They never met each other. But at least you had friends. And then when you got married and had kids, the kids had parents and they became your friends. So you had a structure. If you were working, you had people in your office. They were your friends. What happens after you retire and everybody's moving away?
Mm-hmm.
Imagine, we all have to make new friends starting at 40, 50, or 60. It's not easy. But when you travel, you go to that shared table on the ship, right? You go into a group of people you've never met before, and you begin to go ice walking with them or looking at museums or art museums. You bond so fast. It's just a new way of meeting people and keeping that isolation at bay and keeping this friendship for life through technology, even if they don't happen to live in your community or around the corner.
And there are so many opportunities today that are new that didn't exist decades ago. If you are a solo traveler, you can join group travel. Like you said, you can go on a cruise and meet people that way. There are travel programs you can join. We're doing something local this summer. We did it when our children were growing up. We went to family camp. We're going to the UC Santa Barbara family camp. And now we're going with my son's family and our 2 little granddaughters. And we will definitely meet new people there. And it's a very collective, community-oriented program. There are just so many opportunities for connecting and meeting people. And thank you for pointing that out as a very important criteria for healthy living and aging.
You mentioned solo travel, and solo women travel in particular. I found an incredible statistic. About 25%, some say as much as 63, but I'll even take the 25%, of solo traveling women, are you ready? Are married. Now, what's going on? Women and men age differently. And women tend to want to get out there. And so in terms of meeting new people, you may be very much meeting new women who are either single or have the time that you have to go out and enjoy themselves. So on Instagram, every Thursday, and this happens to be Thursday, I'm doing it today, I do something called Not Date Night. I'm married for 55 years, my husband. I go out by myself every single Thursday night. And it's usually to a jazz club, but that's something else. And I observe other women having the time of their lives, even if they're solo. And you cannot assume that they're unattached. Many of them are. So it's a brave new world of meeting new people.
I might have to bring you in to do a guest speaking episode in my Sexy in Your 60s course, because that's an awesome event. I'm going to think about implementing that myself. I can really appreciate what you're talking about because I get the opportunity to go to Morocco in May because I'm going to be the roommate of another solo woman traveler. She's actually traveling with a small group of women that she knows and that she's friends with, but they didn't have an even number and she needed a roommate. And I raised my hand. So I get to go. My husband's not that interested in Morocco right now, so it works out really well.
I have to say that I'm going to Morocco in March because I'm a speaker. I'm a cruise ship speaker, and I talk about these things. As you said, I've got something called Your Passport to Longevity. But I will tell you that when I observe the women or they're observing me too, we meet each other. We rarely meet men. We're not trying to. But we do make new friends and we have a hell of a time.
That's great. So, Adriane, for women who are 50 and above, which is the population that I target, talk about the most important pre-travel priorities that help protect energy and resilience.
Well, first of all, I'm very happy to say, I'm going to knock on wood, I've got the stamina of flying the wildebeest at the Great Migration. So in terms of stamina, how do you keep that stamina? You want to stay with the group, maybe even ahead of the group if you're going on a group tour. And the truth is, and I can't give you anything but what I do, I really do exercise. The truth is I do yoga twice a week because you need to stretch, you need to be flexible. I have a group class. It's very inexpensive, because I'm over 65. It's actually covered by Medicare.
Okay.
But here's my trick. I have a trick. I do not go to chair yoga. I do not go to the yoga for the older adult. I don't go to anything for the older adult. My group exercise guide is a Navy SEAL. And I guarantee you there's nobody my age in that class. The average person there is about 40. So if you're 50, you want to have people that are younger than you, and you always want to punch a little bit above your weight when it comes to any challenge. So that's one. And of course, the other one is I'll really learn to drink Prosecco because you're going to, I love it. I'm going to tell you the truth. Prosecco is only $8 a glass to $9 a glass on a cruise ship or in a restaurant. White wine is $12 on average. So since you're going to, that's part of the stamina, seriously, is to enjoy yourself. Prepare yourself. Again, we talked about mental health brings dopamine, which is a chemical, into the system. Good chemical. It's a happiness chemical. So the more you anticipate your travel, the more you're preparing for it in a good and beneficial way.
So we talked about things you can do before your travel to keep yourself healthy so that you'll enjoy your trip. We could talk about this for several episodes, and I know you talk about that a lot on your double podcast episode, Longevity
Yes,
Passport.
Passport to Longevity.
What about travelers that have mobility limits or chronic conditions? Do you have any tips or recommendations that you can make, like guardrails for them, so that they can look forward to traveling and still enjoy themselves, not feel depleted, not feel like they can't participate and they have to miss out on?
Yeah, I have quite a few. There's a book that we did, a free ebook that you get with Ageless Traveler website. You can find it on the website under the books, and you can download it. It's called The Caregiver's Guide to Travel. But it's really for everybody that has any mobility issues or any food restrictions, hydration issues, which I have. I do definitely bring with me. during the trip and before a trip, my electrolyte powders. It's very important. You also mentioned what to do before any trip. I do like acupuncture. And one of the reasons I use it is not to get seasick. So if anybody has that problem, that helps. Stretching for the muscles helps a lot. Now, the other part of it is knowing what's going to be difficult for you. Let's say it's an airport and difficult to navigate an airport. Take a look at the airport page. It'll tell you exactly how long it takes to walk from one place to another. These are all things you can do before you get on the trip. When you get on the trip, make sure everybody knows if you have a limitation and try to select a trip that I call multifunctional. Ones where you can see something with a slower group, ones you can see something with a faster group. This is not disability. This is normal aging. We do not age the same way. And so trips are catering to that now. All of these things are things that you can do to really make it possible to travel all your life.
The activity programs that we've gone on actually have ratings for how strenuous they are, how many miles a day you can walk. And even the way they're rated, you still have the ability to do more if you want to, or take the van back if you don't want to finish the hike after lunch and you've had a few glasses of wine on the picnic.
The travel industry is not going to like me saying this, but they really have not studied what it means to be older. Most of the people, including concierges at hotels and guides, are not up to what it means to be older. So they have their own prejudices and ageism with them. By and large, they'll think you can do less than you can do. Absolutely. And they will have you do less and you'll be bored. Don't let that happen. Fight it out. On the other hand, sometimes they don't understand where there are the real deficiencies. For example, around age 55, most of us can't hear as well as we used to. And so they may take you on a guided walk and they won't have a microphone and you won't be able to hear them. If that happens, don't be shy. Get right up front and walk right next to them so that you can hear them and tell them which is your good ear. Everybody listening knows that they have one good ear, not a good. So they're wrong about what you can do and what you can't do. You have to be right about it and assert it.
Great advice. Was there a moment when you realized that aging wasn't something that was off in the future, that it was something that you had to kind of just grab onto and decide how you wanted that to work for you?
Yes, in my case, that's absolutely true because of not a very good reason. I have terrible genetics. My joke is I have the genetics of a fruit fly, but that's not so funny. But you really have the genetics of a fruit fly. My dad died when he was 42. And I had already been to 5 funerals by the time I was age 11. The fact is that I had nobody who ever lived past the age of 63 that was close to me. Nobody, not a cousin, not an aunt, not a nephew. I've nobody. And so I expected to check out around age 50. And that was my moment. The moment that I hit 50, I said, you are one of the few in the family. You have a chance to grow old. And I was very aware of it, maybe more than most 50-year-olds. But I was obese. I was called a cardiac cripple. I couldn't really walk very well. And I had all the genetics that I had inherited. And if you had seen me then, you would never believe it.
So this was just at age 50?
I was off, but all my life. I mean, I was heavy.
Okay.
I was a heavy child. I was body shamed as a little girl. I was obese always. I had a second child at age 44, which was wonderful and planned. But I realized I couldn't run after her. But she was between age 4 and 6. It was very difficult for me. And people don't believe it because at 78, I'm in pretty good shape. Knock on wood.
Sure.
But I had to work at that. I didn't wake up in the morning and look like Helen Mirren. It took a lot of time. The realization came at menopause. At age 50, I went to menopause, and the estrogen started to come in, and all of this, and I felt better. And I said, you would say I felt sexy for the first time in my life, and I exercised, and did all the things you're supposed to do. And boy, am I glad, because it's 28 years later and I'm still cooking.
So it sounds like menopause was actually a great inflection point for you that turned things in a positive direction. You don't hear that from a lot of women these days. That's a
Well,
really refreshing thing.
yeah, most women suffer. They have the hot flashes, all those things. For me, it was counterintuitive, perhaps because at that time, it was so long ago that they didn't have that study that
The
falsely said,
WHI.
yes, we've discussed that, you and I. And so I got estrogen because that's what they did. And it was great. And it was actually easier for me to have beautiful skin and to lose weight and all those things. I met a wonderful woman, still my best friend, Risa Olinsky. She is the head of something called free walkers, long distance walking. And I told her, I can't even move. She says, all you have to do is put one foot in front of the other. And with that motivation and the bodily changes that were going on, it took 5 years. I'm not telling you that everything changed overnight, but I did go, I guess, 40 to 60 pounds less. It's a lot of weight. And my whole sense of self changed.
That's so inspirational. Thank you for sharing that story. I was just thinking of one of my own when you were talking about what type of physical activity classes you join and how you specifically want to join ones with younger people. I recently started folk dancing again, and I folk dance a lot while I was growing up. I grew up in Los Angeles, and now I'm in the Bay Area of California, and I recently started folk dancing, and it is not easy. It's very physically active. It requires so much coordination and it's cognitively challenging. I'm using some muscles that I forgot about.
Right.
And you need balance and flexibility. But one of the greatest things I found in this group I've just started to attend is, and I'm 64, I'll be 65 this year. I am not the oldest one by far. In fact, I'm pretty sure the teacher's definitely older than me, and everybody in the class is in really great dancing shape. So it's pretty inspirational.
It's very inspirational. And I will say, even though in my particular class, I'm the oldest one, usually wherever I go, I'm not the oldest one. In fact, we had this the other day. We were on a cruise to the Bahamas, my husband and I, a couple of weeks ago. And they have a game, which they call the newlywed game, where they pick the youngest couple, the middle-aged couple, and the oldest couple. And we've been married for 55 years. So we knew for sure we were going to be, no, we weren't picked. There was a couple there who were married for 63 years. So
Wow.
whatever you think you are, there's somebody older than you.
Yes,
Doing
yes.
the thing you're doing it more.
Can you think of one trip that you felt like this is what vibrant aging feels like?
Yeah, first of all, I've been to 140 countries. I'm one of those people that counts their countries. And I do not count being in airports. So that doesn't count. You have to have really been there. And I always write about one particular experience in Greenland. I wanted to go on an iceberg tour. And I bought the tour. My husband and I got off. We were so excited. And they said, there's no boats. They're full. We had paid. But if you're willing, we do have a little extra boat. Turned out that this little boat, it was not a sightseeing boat. It was a tiny, it's a motorboat. And one other tourist, a little Japanese lady, smaller than me. We said, we'll go. They tip to toe, they put us in furs. They actually piled us in the boat like 3 garbage bags. We couldn't move. And the fellow who was the captain, only one person, he did not speak any English at all. And you couldn't do anything because it was Greenlandish that he spoke. So he says, but they said, don't worry, you'll see the icebergs. And bang, that boat started. And it went so fast. And we went in this little boat, no signs, holding on to each other. And even the Japanese, we were all together. And he went right up to the iceberg and bumped deliberately into the iceberg so that we could touch it and feel it.
Wow.
All 3 of us cried with awe. We were so overwhelmed by the awe of being at the iceberg, being there, together, touching it, it was an extraordinary experience. It's only about a year and a half ago that this happened. But since I've been doing even deeper research, I've been looking into the challenge and novelty that this kind of thing does to the brain. And not only was it great on the science level, but this feeling of awe and being part of something bigger than ever was very much akin to going into a dark sky experience and seeing the stars, which I did in Thanksgiving in Moab, Utah. So I'm seeking those experiences now. I used to seek and still love the museums and the cathedrals and the ruins and all that. But now I'm looking for that awe experience, which you get in nature. And this, to me, is a new level of excitement. And I think it comes with aging. I think it comes with that desire to be part of it all. So
And that's a great story. I listen to your podcasts, and one of the points that you make is when you travel, you're in a more curious framework. And so you open yourself up to more novel experiences that you wouldn't otherwise normally do in your own regular home setting. So that's a wonderful story.
you do all kinds of crazy stuff. Some of it is physical, like you'll zip line, which you would never do. And some of it is games, particularly on ships. They have them more than in other areas because you're confined. But you play these crazy games that you never would. So I like those.
You have interviewed and worked with a lot of experts in geroscience and the policy development of longevity and active aging. And I would like to know if you can think of an expert you've learned from or a conversation that you've had that's really changed your thinking about aging and even changed your behavior.
Yeah, I'm going to give you just two quick ones. One is a person who's passed, and you would not think of him as an expert in aging, but he was a very good personal ager. His name is Milton and Gralla, Gralla. And we wrote a book together. He actually hired me to help him write his philosophy of business philosophy. He wanted the book to be called How Good Guys Finish First. But they changed it to How Good Guys Grow Rich, because he was very rich for what he did. He didn't like that title. But it's out there. It's called How Good Guys Grow Rich by Milton Gralla and Adriane Berg. And this is what he taught me. And I'm serious about this. He said, do something that you do badly every day. That has made my aging so much better for two reasons. One, it takes away shame. You do feel shame because that's our society. You do feel like the other simply because you're older. Particularly if you're a go-getter and you're in the world, you do, because you're in the world of younger people. So the idea of being able to do something badly and slough it off, that has helped me. And also by doing something badly, I keep the humility that yoga tries to teach. And that's very good too. It's really, and believe me, I have no problem. I got so many choices of things I do badly that I have no problem finding what. Like, for example, I have only supervised visitation with my stove. So that I do that's it.
Love that.
So on an expert, though, that's a contemporary expert in aging, I would say a lovely woman, her name is Cynthia Stewart. She used to be the CEO of the Lighthouse for the Blind. A lot of people know that organization. But she became involved in the United Nations, the UN, and I'm involved with them, International Federation on Aging. And what she said to me that really made a difference is the human rights that somebody has in the poorest country in the world are your human rights. So if they don't have them, you don't have them. And that really has propelled me to work very hard in getting what's they call it a convention, but it's a treaty on the human rights of older persons. And we're getting there. We're through the General Assembly. But I always think about that. And every time I travel to an exotic country, like Africa, or I'm talking to people in Pakistan, and they're very poor and they don't have things, I try to cut through the fact that we're so different on the outside. Or I've been to Uganda recently, which is the children, they live so different. Once you cut that through, you find that we're not so different. There's so much the same. Their problems really are your problems, only yours are in a nicer box. So you get through the wrapping, you got the same problem they've got, and we can solve it. And I so believe that. But that did come from the introduction that Cynthia gave me to what's going on in the world. Not
I
just
love
the
that
fun.
mindset.
Yeah, not
That
just the fun.
the mindset of failing. I think you're saying things that you do badly, but we have this mindset that we always have to be successful, and that something's not worth doing if we're not successful. And I know you have kids. I have 3 adult kids, and I was just working as a school nurse for 25 years in a high school, and they don't let you consider failure as an option when that is such an important thing to embrace. We learn so much from embracing our failure, and it expands our experiences. You made me think about this story when you were visiting the kids from the village, that this story of these kids at a village, and they were shown a big bowl of candy, and whoever won the race to the end of the yard gets the big bowl of candy. And when they said go, all the kids started holding hands so that they could get to the end together.
Wonderful.
Because they wanted to share the bowl of candy.
Yeah.
Because what my neighbor has is just as important as what I have. That's what you were sharing.
We have a great system here in the U.S. I am very patriotic, but the idea of community and the importance of community sometimes eludes us. When you talk about aging and isolation, there's a great book called Bowling Alone. It was written in the 1990s.
Repeat that.
Bowling, like a bowling ball.
Okay.
Bowling Alone by Dr. Putnam. So who I got to meet actually at the Longevity Center in California. And he did a study. He's a social scientist, did a study. It was a funny study. He found that more people were bowling, but the bowling leagues were going out of business. So people were bowling alone. And that's what we have in retirement. We're doing a lot. You ask a retiree if they're busy. They're going to tell you they're busy. Oh, I don't even know when I had time to work. I'm so busy. What are they doing? They're doing something alone. Or they're doing something that isn't in community. Or they're going to their book club and then coming back home. But they're not teaching somebody to read. This is a pity, because as you get older, you find that it's so wonderful. I really did say to my 7-year-old, I know it sounds so touchy-feely. She was sad, and she was she's my 7-year-old granddaughter. And I said, if you're sad, and I'm always crying, remember what I'm telling you. Anytime you're sad, go do something for somebody else. The minute you do that, you won't be sad. I truly believe this.
That's beautiful. Thank you. I'm going to pivot a little and ask you what your advice would be for women, especially women in this age group I'm talking about. A lot of them are juggling and balancing a lot of responsibilities. I have a lot of friends who are in this sandwich generation where they have their adult children, their grandchildren, their aging parents. They have caregiving, they have financial issues, they have time issues. Do you have any recommendations for how to get into travel in smaller ways, that if you can't make a commitment of going on a 2-week cruise, or a more accessible way to start putting travel into your life? Because as you say, travel is a way to stay healthy and even become healthier.
Travel can be around the corner. So let's put it this way. First of all, I applaud everybody who's in that sandwich generation. I don't think any of us escaped it. And we all did it in our own way. And none of us had smooth sailing. So you deserve it. This is a great quote of my mother, who always would say, whatever it was, her answer was, you deserve it. So let's start with that. You deserve it. That's number one. Number two, time management of it. I've just recently written an article for Healthy Aging magazine. Put travel in your health budget. So it is a prescription. There's no doubt about it. It will re-energize you. And if it re-energizes you, it'll re-energize all the people you have to take care of. So when you take care of yourself, that way you're taking care of them. Now, what do I recommend for quick, easy, speedy travel? You should know that any diversion is enough. You don't have to get on the plane and go to Uzbekistan, which I happen to love, but okay. What I would do is I would go to a festival. There are local festivals everywhere. It could be a book festival. It could be a music festival. It could be for 2 or 3 hours. It could be a lively concert where people are screaming and yelling. Doesn't matter. This is the kind of travel that energizes you fast. It's like a shot. It's like the Red Bull of travel. If you only have a night, a day, an hour, fantastic. The second and quick, and usually not very expensive, is a meditative weekend. If you can simply get away to that weekend spa or even the day destination spa and take yourself away from your normal routine. See, all of these interventions into inflammation, neurological pathways, why do they work? Because you're taking yourself out of the routine. That's what it's really about. So look, there are people who go around the world and they keep the same routine. Are they really traveling? I'm not sure. So they're moving, but I don't think they're traveling. So anything that gets you out of your routine, that's very different. What's counterintuitive to who you usually are, where people see you in a completely new and novel light, and you see yourself that way. That's what you do, even if it's fast or around the corner.
Well, I like how you actually gave two suggestions that were kind of on different ends of the spectrum. One being go find novel experiences.
Excitement.
And the other being the need to neuroregulate yourself and just pay attention to your nervous system and develop routines that support that.
And the off and on switch of doing both is actually the stimulation. Look, because of what you do, there's a big fad now, a trend called forest bathing.
Mm-hmm.
So you walk around in a forest and they stop you at every tree, you meditate, and you give them, oh, sure, it's $2,000. I'm sorry. So I will go into a forest and I'll hug the tree by myself. And that's cost anybody. And I will meditate, and you bring yourself a little poem book, a little poetry book, read your own poem, maybe a journal your experience, write your own poem. And when you get back, you'll be a different person. It won't last forever, but it's a wonderful, wonderful addition to who you are.
It's very likely that many of us have those experiences in our backyards. My favorite hike takes me 12 minutes to drive to, and I think it qualifies as forest bathing. And then when you get to the top point, you get a 360-degree view of the Bay Area, which is really quite phenomenal. I really try and take the opportunity, like you're saying, to stop, pay attention, not just get to the top and then go back down again. I actually have gone there with my meditation group multiple times before, and it's a beautiful place to take that kind of break.
I live in a beautiful place at Palm Springs, which is a kind of resort bubble anyway, but we do have mountains around us. People don't realize we're not just a desert. So we have yoga hikes every Sunday, and they're very important. They're really important to do. And luckily, the Coachella Valley Hiking Club is $15 a year.
Oh.
And it gives back every single day.
That's
So
great.
you can find places like that, or on Meetup. You can find that sort of thing too. That's a vacation too. And you're meeting completely new people for something that you enjoy and they enjoy, and it takes you out of yourself. That's what you really want to do.
I'm glad you mentioned Meetup, because one of the guests I've had in the past, her name's Gail Perry, and she did an episode with me on hiking. And we talked about Meetup as a way to meet new people. I was thinking she was going to just talk about it in the context of a local hike, but she said that she even seeks out those type of experiences when she's traveling. When she's traveling to another city or another country, even she'll look for these types of meetups to hike with other people. So,
Yeah, that's why I mentioned festivals. There's an aspect of festivals that people don't know or think about, and that's affinity festivals.
mm,
A lot of folks, particularly if they've moved or others have moved away, really do have trouble making friends. The nicest people have trouble making friends in their 40s and 50s. They will tell you their best friend is from high school, still from high school. One way to make new friends is to know what you love, your hobby, let's say, right? Whether it is cooking or crafting, whatever it is, and go to a festival, which you'll find online easily about that hobby or that love. I happen to like Gilbert and Sullivan music. It's very
mm.
weird that I do. And believe it or not, there is a national Gilbert and Sullivan festival that I've gone to for the
Wow.
last, no matter what it is, you can do it. And so what's going to happen? You immediately meet people that have something in common, and you can start to know them and go from there. So there's no ice breaking problems. So
I love
this.
that. I love that you used the word affinity groups, because that's a great way for people to think about how can they meet people, how can they get involved in something in their community or really wherever they are. Beneath all of this, we really have a deeper question, and we've been talking about all along, but what's our why? Why does all of this matter? When we travel, you gain so many things. What can you talk about that is not so easy to measure, that has shaped your sense of meaning, your identity, your zest for life?
I think there are many things, but I will say that two that are travel related. By the way, I don't want to leave out the fact that grandchildren are really important. And you live every day thinking about their little faces. But we're talking about something a little bit different than family today, although I love to talk about family. So I would say two things that have brought the zest for life that relate to travel. One, the feeling of self-confidence, that I could do it. Remember, I spent many, many years, young years, I won't say disabled, but certainly not very abled physically, right? So the fact that I belong to a long distance walking club, and we walked the El Camino, the way, more than once. The fact that I've done the walk through Alsace vineyards, 20 miles a day for 5 or 6 days. The fact that I can do it. The fact that I know that if somebody took me in the wilderness and threw me out, I can walk 50 miles. Yes, I can in one day, is an empowerment that I can't believe it's me sometimes. All right. So that's number one. It's the physicality, the ability to do it that's changed me. The second thing has been volunteering, understanding, feeling needed. Look, we talk about life purpose and we talk about invisibility as we age. Why? Because most of our kids are doing okay. Most of our grandkids are doing even better. Our friends, they're on their own. What are we needed for? Nobody cares if we go to work or not because we're not going to work. So we figured out that volunteering, and in my case, volunteering, which is just volunteering someplace else out of your community, has been a demonstration of how much I'm still needed. And that would be the same for anybody who's got a volunteer or a volunteer lifestyle. I do a lot of volunteering a lot. From my local museum, very local, I could walk to it, to Africa. And it's all the same. It's all extremely important and extremely motivating. And I'm working on a project now to ferret out this problem in Africa of older women being accused of being witches with very horrible results so that people could take their land. And I'm in a position because of my volunteering at the UN and many other groups to do something about it. And you'll all find that little start, you'll get so far in what you can do in the world, you'd be shocked because the world is really open to your help. Let's put it this way. The world needs you more than you need it. So go out and help.
I can't tell you what an inspiration you are, Adriane. You have so much energy and enthusiasm and beauty. I want to ask, as a woman who is actively aging, a lot of what we see is this quest for being young again or being younger. What would you say is a healthier, a wiser, more grounded perspective to have if we are hoping to age actively with a long lifespan and health span?
The easiest thing to do is to forget those words of older or younger or whatever. You think of it in terms of your status. Who do you want to be right now? The numbers are ridiculous. I happen to be, if you look, was born in 1948. So you can easily do a calculation and you know exactly how old I am chronologically. As I always say, I'm 78 and some parts of me are still good. I've got strong arms. I've got weak legs. In other words, even my own body is a different age, every part of it. So age itself makes no sense. That itself is not a very interesting criterion. The criteria is, what's your status right now? Where do you want to be in the world? And it has nothing to do with being older or younger. I will say, and I'm very honest about this, when it comes to the way people look, physically look, most people want to look what they think is younger. I would like to instead say better. I don't think there's anything wrong in trying to look better. Period. And if it means to you looking better is less wrinkles or not gray hair, fine. That's what it means to you. But it's not about that you're doing it because you're looking younger. You're doing it because for you, you're looking better. Look, most of the reason I go to the gym is not for physical muscle. I just want to wear a size 6. That's important to me because I always wore a size 14.
And you want to be able to walk for miles and miles and miles.
Exactly. Well, yes, but honestly, if I have to tell you, the vanity comes first. If I couldn't walk for 50 miles, I'll get over it. If I'm a size 10 again, I don't want to be. Because of me. Whereas there's some magnificently beautiful women, and some of them are my friends, gorgeous, who do wear size 14. And believe me, they can knock your socks off. They're so gorgeous. So it has nothing to do with that. It's that I want to stay who I am today and not who I was. So you take a look and see what would make you really feel, not younger, but better about yourself. And that's what you aspire to, whether it's in your physicality, your looks, whether you want to work or not, whether you want to volunteer or not, what makes you feel your best self.
I'm going to repeat what you just said. What makes you feel your best self? What makes you feel your best self? If that is because you want to look a certain way, you do that for you because you want to feel your best. It's not based on external expectation and validation.
Or a guy or another person. See, that's the good part of being older. Many times when you're younger, you are doing it to be in a crowd or for guys to like you or for other women to like you. Not anymore. After a certain age, it's all for you.
Well, you're leading me right into the last question. What does sexy mean to you, Adriane?
Well, I thought you were going to ask, what does sex mean to me?
Well, you can answer that too if you want.
Well, first of all, we'll start with the sex because I'm married. I've been married for 55 years to the same person. Now, as far as I know, we've had a monogamous marriage, which is not so easy. Okay. But we've had a very good sex life. And so I have to say that in the long run, looking back, that's very important because staying with one person for a very long time is not easy. But that is one of the benefits. And if you don't have that benefit, you might want to rethink the rest of what you're getting out of the relationship and how it's important to you. But it is a very important benefit, and it's another ageist myth that sex is not important after a certain age, or that you don't think about it, or you can't perform it, or whatever. I'm not in that world as you are of sexuality. However, don't minimize it. It's really important in a relationship. So I could only say that. Sexy is different to me because sexy is not an act. Sexy is how you feel about yourself, just like we were talking about a minute ago. And I do feel sexy. And I think sometimes, and this is a full disclosure, it's maybe catty, like you used to say when you were kids, it might be catty. Sometimes I feel sorry for women. Are you ready for this? who were beautiful when they were younger because I wasn't.
Mm.
And I am better looking now and feel sexier now and get more looks now than I did when I was younger, because I was younger, I didn't get any. So it's very easy to get one would do more. It is wonderful to feel that my clothing looks better and I could wear lower cut clothes and I still have good legs and that I'm looked at. Even if what they think is, hey, that's a good looking old lady, they still have the words good looking in front of it. And it makes me feel sexy. And when I walk into a room, I expect to be looked at. So I do certain things. I wear a hat. I wear clothes that are noticeable. I look to see, is my jewelry right? So these are all external, but that make me internally feel like I can swagger and that I have some cachet when I walk in. So that's important, and it's noticed, and I like it. I do get more attention than I did when I was younger. Now, I don't think I'd probably feel that way if I was a beauty when I was younger, because all that does change on many levels. So I have to say, I think that feeling sexy for me is unique and novel. And for other women who were very beautiful, and most women were very beautiful when they were younger, for them it's just a continuation. And I don't know, I've never had the conversation, whether as you get older, you don't feel as sexy because you were very beautiful and everybody paid attention to you, or you just continue that feeling of I'm all that, which I never had in the first place. But I definitely feel sexy. And to me, it is an external thing. That's the way other people look at me.
For your honesty, I do want to comment on a few things. First of all, when you were talking about sex and sex in a relationship or sex as we get older, my last episode I just dropped this week was with my gynecologist, and she really emphasizes the importance of women seeing their gynecologist regularly because you should be able to have sex your whole life. And that is a myth that it stops at any certain point. But we're talking about the things that you do. I heard you saying that you do intentional things, whether that be how you're deciding to dress, the jewelry you choose. And for me, I know in my morning routine, when I sit and I do my makeup and then I do my hair, it's this transformation that I'm intentionally taking myself through. And I know it changes how I feel. And I do it on purpose. If I didn't do all that, I'm still the person I am, but I feel differently.
Yes, absolutely true. There are some boxes that I think are important to check. I told you about not date night, that I go every single, and so tonight's one of those nights. Now, I will tell you that nobody will probably even notice or see, because it's a jazz club. And then I happen to have chosen it for tonight, and it's dark. It is actually dark. And I will go in, I will enjoy the music. I know that I will meet some random women who have come in because I'm in a resort town from the Midwest where it's freezing. And they've heard about this jazz club. They'll come in a group, 3 or 4 women, and I'll notice that they want to dance because it's a jazz club with dance. And there will one shyly get up one at a time and dance, or they'll dance in a group and I will dance with them and we'll meet each other and schmooze and we'll have a good time. Other than that, I am not picking up men, so that's not of interest. Yeah, I'm not going for a modeling contract, but I will dress carefully, very carefully today, for no other reason than feeling fine myself. Period. And if nobody's going to see me, I'm still going to do it. Now, I learned that from my mother. My mother was very careful about that and was very, very good at that to the day that she passed.
Great story. Thank you. Adriane, how can listeners connect with you?
So easy. Well, first of all, agelesstraveler.com is our big website where you can actually hear our podcast, even if you don't listen to podcasts. You'll also see a Contact Adriane page on agelesstraveler.com, and I answer everything. You'll also see on the podcast page an icon that you can press to leave me a voicemail. Believe it or not, technology is so wonderful. a voicemail or a text without even going to a telephone. So agelesstraveler.com is so easy. And you'll also find there to join our Facebook group, which I call the Facebook Salon. I think it's fancy. To get a free newsletter, which is every week, which is the best thing you could do, because that's chock full of free information and discounts and all kinds of ways to be able to travel. And it's called Travel Tuesday. But you get all that just by going to agelesstraveler.com.
I love your podcast. I love listening to it. Thank you so much for being with me here today on Sexy in Your 60s and 70s and beyond. Adriane, you've shared with us that travel is not just where you go, it's what you practice. Movement, curiosity, connection, and meaning. And those inputs are not reserved for a perfect trip. We can build them on the road and at home. If this episode sparks something in you and you want structure and support around feeling strong, energized, and fully alive in this chapter, that's the work I do inside my Sexy in Your 60s coaching experience. If you enjoyed this conversation, share it with a friend who needs a nudge back into possibility. Until next time, stay connected to what makes you feel vibrant. If you're a woman 50 and above and you're doing a lot of the right things, but you still don't feel as strong and steady as you want to, I'm hosting a free live workshop called the 5-Minute Reality Check for women 50 and above. We'll look at the 4 areas that quietly drive energy and aging well: strength, fiber, sleep, and alcohol. And you'll leave with one simple next step that you can actually do right away. Join me on Thursday, April 30th at 4:30 p.m. Pacific Time. Save your spot at slanttoplants.com/realitycheck. Thank you so much for spending this time with us. If today's conversation resonated with you, I invite you to take the next gentle step by downloading the Sexy in Your 60s Starter Guide, a free resource designed to help you reflect on what supports your energy, vitality, and sense of connection in this season of life. You'll find it linked in the show notes or at slanttoplants.com/starter-guide. You can also explore more of my work, including health coaching, plant-forward nutrition, and resources for vibrant living at slanttoplants.com. And for the ultimate transformation, join the Sexy in Your 60s coaching experience at sexyinyour60s.com. If this episode spoke to you, please consider following the podcast, leaving a review, or sharing it with someone who might need it right now. That's how these conversations continue to grow. Until next time, take care of yourself, stay curious, and stay boldly, beautifully sexy, exactly as you are.